Thanks, team. In October 2006, extreme athlete David Grier, together with Braam Malherbe, accepted the first Cipla Miles for Smiles Foundation challenge to run the length of the Great Wall of China in one attempt. It had never been done before and was deemed humanly impossible. Yet, 4,200 kilometers and 98 days later, the two had achieved their seemingly unattainable goal. They had run, climbed, and in cases crawled across treacherous, weather-battered terrain into the record books by becoming the first persons in recorded history to traverse the length of the sleeping dragon. I said that in a sentence. It sounds so easy, yet it was nothing like that, David. Take me back to the beginning. I mean, how did Cipla get involved? Where did this all start?
You know, it was crazy. As you're saying, I mean, this seemingly impossible journey, finance and funding was as impossible. Yeah. And I'd been planning for a couple of years, and I had my restaurant out in the Welgemoot area, and Jerome Smith, the CEO of Cipla, he was having lunch there, and he asked me, he said, "Come here, tell me about this crazy story of yours." Yeah. And I told him, and I said, "Look, no one believes me, no one wants to fund us, so I'm just taking my rucksack and I'm going." So he says, "You know what?" He says, "Bring me a piece of paper." And I took him an old bill slip. I thought, well, what now? And he then signed a promissory note. He says, "I've got a gut feeling about you guys. Wow. I'm going to back you." And, you know, from that day, that's how the Miles for Smiles Foundation was born. And it's changed hundreds of lives across this continent.
Right. And listen, you're in the record books for doing what no human should have done or thought could have done. What was the toughest challenge in those 4,200 kilometers?
You know, the toughest challenge was my mental strength, because it was my first real big journey. And it was, when I started training, I thought it was physical. And I got a serious wake-up call, and it became, you've got to have a strong mind. And I think in life it's much like that. You know, if you dig deep enough and you believe in yourself and you want something bad enough, it is achievable. And that's what China taught me was, you know, if you want that little dragon deep inside, you've got to go and find it.
Fight the dragon and bring it out, you know. Yeah. What about Braam? I mean, this was also a partnership. You don't do this thing alone. Yeah. What did you learn out of that?
You know, we learn so much because we come from two totally different lives, from two different interests in life, and it works well like that. If you from two sort of totally different things, I mean, me being a chef and him being a conservationist, it was nice because along the journey we had so much to talk about because we lived two separate lives, and that's what kept us going all the time, was we would feed each other at different stages. And in a journey doing it with someone else, you have downs and that person picks you up. And, you know, vice versa. So that's a nice part as well. It really is.
45 days into your journey, you're not even halfway there. What are you thinking? I mean, there must have been some point when you thought, let's just throw in the towel. Let's just give Jerome a call and say, nah, you know.
Well, what happened was I had a fall. I fell 12 meters down a rock face, and I thought I'd broken my leg. And I ended up in this Chinese hospital. And this Austrian doctor with us, he walked into the room after 3 days, and he said to me, "David, there's nothing medically I can do for you. You've got to get up and decide you want to move on or not." And that was a turning point, I think, in a lot of things in my life, where I stared failure in the face. And I thought, you know what? For the first time, it's up to me. I've got to get up and I've got to get going.
You have my mouth dropping on the floor as I listen to your stories. But you're so right. I think the drive that this whole idea is bigger than I am. It was a dream, but the dream has become a whole lot more dreams for more kids.
It has. It just keeps evolving.
It's amazing, yeah. Well, there you go. Not only did Cipla Miles for Smiles Great Wall Challenge raise 550,000 Rand, it also earned Malherbe and David the Adventurer of the Year award from the Out There magazine. But this was not the biggest achievement. As you just heard David say, it was the subsequent smiles of 55 children who received corrective surgery, which was the greatest award of all. Back to you guys in the studio.
Cipla, we'll make it better.
Now, we are well into September, and of course that means it's spring season, but along with the beautiful flowers that are blossoming and flowering comes also the danger of pollen. And for those of you out there who have allergies, let's take a look at your pollen report for the day. Now, for the most parts of the country, there will be a high prevalence of pollen all over Gauteng, eastern parts of Limpopo, Mpumalanga, KZN and the Eastern Cape, and on the south coast of the Western Cape, as well as Central Free State. The yellow portion of that map indicating medium levels of pollen prevailing over the majority of the country, while the Northern Cape will see only some low levels of pollen. And that's your pollen report for the day.
Cipla, we'll make it better.
Stay with eXpresso and SABC3.